Hi, hello there. Hi, welcome back. Thanks for joining me today for another one of my videos. I hope you'll enjoy it as much as the previous ones. Today I won't be reading from any of my novels. Today I'll be sharing my top 5 tips for writing historical fiction. Now my tips can be used across the genre, whether you write historical romance, mystery, generic historical fiction, or any other historical type of novel or short story. These tips could be applied across the board. So here we go. My top 5. Number 1, as expected, research. Research is a big issue with that. If you wish to delve into the past, you need to know about the past. So it's important to get books that apply to your specific era. So you'll find them across bookshops, you'll find them in your libraries, and if you're looking for a specific title and it's not on a library shelf, I'm sure they can order it for you. So it's very important to have any of these with you. History books come in all shapes and forms. You get the generic ones, the really big chunky ones with snippets of history from each era, or you get some more era specific ones. So look what suits best for your research, for your novel. Don't just stick to the generic stuff, make sure you go in deeper, and also make sure you get all sides of the story. A story isn't just told from one side, you will find other things there, I promise you. Anyway, research. Get most of reading out of it, reading opposing views, different views from different historians. Even chroniclers were in the pay of some sort of lord or king, so they would talk favourably about one and totally slag off a previous one or an opponent, an enemy. So always take these with a pinch of salt, because there might be something else behind that, and for that you need to dig deeper and find different sources if you can. If not, be open-minded, because it might not all be black and white as it's written down. Please do not base your historical facts on Wikipedia. I'm sure it's been said before and I can't stress it enough. Wikipedia is collected by a lot of people, and it can be easily changed, and data change. Genealogy sites are equally unreliable, as I found out in recent research trips for my current work in progress. There are threads there, and then there are threads there, and suddenly the names don't match, or the children's names don't match, and you're in a right pickle. So they're not reliable sources either. And do bear in mind that the type of historical fiction you write has a relevant level of historical facts mixed with your plots. So it's the historical side, the facts that you get from the books, the events, mixed with your own plot. That's the most exciting bit. And the amount of how much historical detail you go into depends on the genre. Some genres have less of it, others more. So watch out for that. Tip 2. Read widely, and with that I mean fiction, historical fiction. Read in the genre that you want to explore. Romance and murder mysteries have less historical detail than standard historical fiction, so if you want to write in those genres, read loads and loads of books in that, so you can get a feel for the tone, for the ideas. And you'll find out where your book actually sits in that area. I know that mine sit across genres. I don't just write romance, I don't just write historical mystery, I don't just write historical fiction. I merge all those together. So there's quite a few of us around, so you need to find the right balance for your readership as well. Very important to get a feel for the language and the terminology used in those books, but do beware of overuse of some terminology and of grave errors. I have come across significant errors in historical fiction, from the types of items used to words that were 20th century rather than 13th, 12th, whatever. and dig a little deeper into the language that you're using. Have a look where the words come from and how old they are. Tip number 3. Visit historic sites where possible, either in person directly or virtually. If there are any castles near you, any ruins, any palaces, go and see them, go and visit them. If they're in the same era as you set your book, it might be useful for getting a feel, a sense of place, a sense of the items they used, the furniture they used. So by all means, go in there. If you can't go, many sites now have virtual tours as well on their websites, so make sure you view them to get a bit of an idea of how it was all laid out, where the kitchens were related to the hall, and all that kind of stuff. So have a look around. If you write about a specific town or city, make sure that you have either visited or contact perhaps their museums and archives for data, for historic data from the period that you write about. Many of those are very happy to provide you with details and point you in the right direction, so don't hesitate to ask rather than get it wrong. If you're not sure and there is no data about it, then use your imagination, set up your own plot, but perhaps mention it in an author's note, just to say that this is imagined, this is fictitious, and people can take it from there. If anyone they knows any different, they don't have anything they could say against it because you've covered your back. Many towns and places also have local history museums, and these are real gems, so go and see them definitely. And it's not just because it's from the area, but it also usually is the case that you find lots of items, household items, jewellery, kitchen items, beauty items, combs and all that. You find these in museums and you can get an idea of what your characters would have used at the time. They also might have local books from local historians, local people, and there might be some hidden gems there. I found out a lot by going into tourist information in Glencoe when I researched for Highland Arms. I found various booklets written by a local historian, not mainstream published, just booklets pulled together with folklore and ideas, what she had kind of gathered together. And this was very, very useful for the background and a bit of a setting for Highland Arms. So look out for those hidden gems. Tip number 4. Lose your 21st century head. Chop it off. No 21st century head. Ignore your own thinking, ignore your own mind. It doesn't work. We cannot go back to the past from a 21st century head point of view. It's impossible. It means that you rewrite the past, and historical fiction writers shouldn't be rewriting the past as it was. People were what they were, like people are now what they are now. There are many things in the past that we don't agree with nowadays, but they happened. They happened frequently and regularly, and we have to accept that. And if we want to kind of twist that view a little, we might have a character who might be a little more enlightened, a little more forward. By all means, use that, but don't give them a 21st century perspective. That is unhealthy, unless, of course, you write time slip, in which case the past and the present clash. And that's probably great fun to write too, so then you can keep your head. Don't worry. But, and also, what's your language? And whilst we shouldn't write it Anglo-Saxon because readers couldn't read it, we should, for example, think of how people would have spoken. You can get a feel from that from reading chronicles from the day. The speech they use, the terminology that they use, how they address people and all that. You can gain a lot from reading those, so it's well worth delving into that, which points back to my point 1, and the research. So keep in mind, Bear in mind that you shouldn't use 21st century language, 20th century language. Swear words existed at the time, some obvious ones as well, so they date back very, very far into the past. But make sure you check before you shock your readers, definitely. And in relation to that, point 4, think of how people would have behaved in those days, what the social norms were, whether there were any exceptions. And again, chronicles would probably point at some things, likely disparagingly and not very impressed with someone's behaviour, but they would point out some of those faults. Lastly, why not join a reenactment group or a local history group, or chat to reenactors during events? I did a short stint of medieval reenactment when I lived in South Wales, around Cardiff, and I visited a lot of the castles as part of it, and it was great fun to stay in the castles overnight. In the grounds, visitors looked out, and you had the place to yourself, and that was absolutely amazing. It was very, very inspiring, and I jotted down loads of notes about it. Very, very interesting. If you can do it, find out if there's a group near you and join them. If not, chat to them at their events. They're always happy to chat and show you something if you're not sure. I've yet to find a reenactor who doesn't. We're all keen to share history. We're all keen to share knowledge as well, and ideas and thoughts, and the items that we had, whether it's bow and arrow, whether it's griddle cakes, whether it's sewing, stitching, knitting, anything that people did at the time. You'll find woodcrafts, you find smithies, often blacksmiths. So if you're into certain things that you want to know more about, it's well worth asking, so go. If you can't join any groups near you, or there aren't any, and you're on Facebook, there are a good few historical groups there, historical reenactment groups, or historical history groups as such. And there's also historical fiction groups, which might give you an idea of what readers are looking for as well. So join one of those, ask your questions, and people will be very, very happy to help. So those are my top 5. So in summary, try to be as authentic as possible to the era that your book is set in terms of description, clothing, everyday items, but also your character's behaviour and the language they use. It's very, very important. Do your research. Can't stress it enough. Do your research. Please do your research. If you write about a famous king or queen, make sure that you read about where they were at the time. Many chronicles exist, so you can track the timeline where they were at a given time. If it doesn't exist, or you want them to be somewhere where they were not, make sure you add that in your author's note. So those sticklers to historical detail won't be offended by that then. And last but not least, enjoy your trip to the past. Enjoy it. It's great fun writing historical fiction. It's absolutely thrilling to do this. It's a real treat. And it is always a treat to find readers who love your book, who praise your book for descriptions, for the setting, for the combination of everything that you provide them with, that you kind of catapulted them into the past. You took them there on a journey, you took them to the past, to adventures, to a romance, to a war, to a battle. I love writing battle scenes. And to have your readers gain that experience in the past through you. That's a really, really wonderful thing. You get to live in the past in your writing, if only through your characters, but you do. Right, these were my top 5 top tips on writing historical fiction. I could expand, I could talk all day about this. I won't this time. I'll leave something for later. But I hope you'll find them a little useful. You found a few things to, yeah, could do that, could try that. And I wish you good luck with your writing and with your reading. Take care. Until next time. Bye now. Bye.